What if the past never really left? What if some places still remember the people who built them and quietly refuse to let their secrets go? Across the world, ancient stones stand where civilizations once breathed, prayed, and vanished. We know when they were built. We know how, but the why still slips through our fingers. And in that unanswered space, something unsettling lingers. At night, these ruins feel different. The air grows heavier. Sounds seem closer. Silence feels intentional, like it's listening back. Not haunted by ghosts in the way movies show, but haunted by memory, by intention, by lives that ended without explanation. These are not stories meant to frighten you. They are meant to pull you in, to make you feel that history isn't finished, that some mysteries are still unfolding, even now. Tonight, we step into those quiet places, where fact and legend overlap, and the past still whispers to anyone willing to listen.
Night settles gently over the world, softening its edges and quieting its noise, and in that hush, our minds drift toward places that daylight rarely lets us see. This is the hour when stories breathe again, when ruins seem to exhale memories, and when the boundary between history and mystery becomes wonderfully thin. In this opening drift, we let the past rise like mist, slow and shimmering, shaped by both truth and the shadows that truth cannot reach. The ancient world has always spoken to us, through stones, through symbols, through echoes that cling stubbornly to forgotten walls. And tonight, we follow those whispers into the heart of humanity's most enduring enigmas. Some of these places are stunning architectural puzzles. Others are simple marks left on Earth or hidden beneath it. But they share one thing, a haunting sense of presence, as though the people who once lived there never fully left. Every civilization leaves behind clues, but some leave behind sensations, impressions that outlast logic and resist clean explanations. We know the dates, the architectural methods, the cultural layers, yet something deeper remains untouched by science. That faint, unnameable feeling that history is alive, still moving, still watching. These stories of haunted ancient mysteries aren't about fear or fright. They aren't meant to startle. Instead, they invite us into a gentle twilight of curiosity, where the ghosts we speak of are not literal phantoms but echoes, emotions, and enigmas that drift between myth and evidence. They're the lingering questions that refuse to fade, the ones that compel archaeologists to dig deeper and storytellers to wonder wider. As we begin this journey, imagine yourself walking a lonely plain just after sunset. The air is cool, carrying the crisp scent of night, and the world feels wider, emptier, yet somehow more attentive. Your steps fall softly, as though the ground beneath you remembers every footstep it has ever held. In the fading light, old stones seem to stand a little taller. Carvings feel sharper. Silence grows heavy, not with danger, but with anticipation. This is the atmosphere where ancient mysteries come alive, not in the bright, dissecting glare of day, but in the quiet moments when imagination and history overlap. Human beings have always sought meaning in the unknown. Long before science, people explained the strange through spirits and gods. Long after science arrived, the unknown still clings stubbornly to certain corners of the world. Some places inspire unease, others inspire awe, and a few create that rare combination of both, where the known facts seem insufficient and the surrounding legends refuse to die. It is in these spaces, half historical, half mystical, that tonight's journey takes us. This documentary is not about proving ghosts or debunking them. Instead, it is about exploring why certain ancient sites feel haunted even when no spectral figure appears. It is about the stories that form around those places, the unanswered questions that give them shape, and the profound quiet they hold at night, when everything else falls away. Each story we encounter will balance between light and shadow. Where archaeology offers data, folklore offers wonder. Where carbon dating provides timelines, oral traditions provide emotions. Rather than choosing one side, we drift between them, allowing both to breathe. Some mysteries have scientific theories, plausible, clear, and well-supported, but still carry a feeling that numbers alone cannot explain. Others have countless legends but little evidence. Yet something about them continues to stir people's imaginations across centuries. And some sit perfectly in the middle, half illuminated, half cloaked in darkness, refusing to belong entirely to either world. As we travel from windswept plains to dense jungles, from buried chambers to desert horizons, the rhythm of the narrative will stay gentle, like a slow tide pulling us through time. We will not rush from puzzle to puzzle. Instead, we glide, lingering on details, allowing each place to feel lived in and real. This is the pacing that nighttime listeners find soothing, the balance between discovery and stillness, curiosity and calm. The goal is not to overwhelm, but to unwind, letting each mystery bloom naturally in the mind. This opening drift also sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. Ancient mysteries are often framed as puzzles to be solved, but here, they become windows, softly lit, half-open passages to lives long gone. When we speak of haunted sites, we do not speak solely of spirits or apparitions. We speak of atmosphere, memory, and the deep imprint that human stories leave behind. The haunted quality may lie in architecture designed to echo, in alignments crafted to track cosmic events, or in rituals that still pulse through the soil. Sometimes the haunting lies in tragedy, sometimes in faith, sometimes simply in the magnitude of what remains unknown. And yet, behind every stone and every silence lies a human story. People built these monuments. People carved these symbols. People prayed, lived, loved, and died in these places. What haunts the ancient world is not necessarily the supernatural. It is the enduring presence of those who shaped it, their intentions partly visible, partly lost, drifting between fact and myth. Every time we stand among ruins, we stand among the echoes of thousands of lives. That alone creates a haunting, a soft one, born not of fear but of remembrance. As this section begins to settle, imagine the landscape darkening even further, stars beginning to flicker awake overhead. The night is deep enough now for imagination to stretch its limbs, yet calm enough for factual history to stand confidently beside it. We are ready to step into our first major mystery, one of the most iconic circles of stone ever created. A structure that seems deceptively simple, yet defies full understanding even after centuries of study. A place where ancient energy, spiritual speculation, scientific debate, and countless ghostly tales converge into one of the world's most enduring enigmas. And so, with a quiet breath, our journey begins at Stonehenge, where massive stones rise like silent guardians, and the past seems to hum softly beneath the open sky. Stonehenge stands on the wide Salisbury Plain, like a patient observer of time, its stones weathered yet unyielding, rooted in a mystery that has lingered for more than 5,000 years. Approaching it feels like stepping into a boundary zone between worlds, one foot planted in solid archaeological fact, the other in the mist of ancient legend. The closer you move toward the Great Sarsens, the more the landscape grows silent, as though the wind itself pauses out of respect. This ancient ring has been studied by scholars, romanticized by poets, feared by wanderers, and honored by spiritual seekers, yet the essence of its purpose remains veiled. It is not simply a monument. It is an atmosphere, a presence, a whispering circle that has never stopped calling to the imagination. And in that quiet call lies one of humanity's most captivating ancient mysteries. Science tells us that Stonehenge was built in phases. It tells us about quarry sources in Wales, about mortise and tenon joints carved into stone, about alignments that match midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset. Archaeologists can map the labor, the engineering, the transportation routes, and still the core question remains suspended in the air. Why was it built? A ceremonial site? A burial ground? A cosmic temple? A healing sanctuary? or something entirely beyond modern comprehension. These possibilities float through the space like invisible layers of time, each one adding depth, but no final answer. The facts create a structure, but the uncertainty, the strangeness, the stories, those create the haunting. Legends tell a different tale, one that threads through centuries like a soft, persistent hum. Some stories claim giants brought the stones. Others say Merlin transported them with magic. Locals speak of ghostly processions drifting across the plain at dusk, pale figures in ancient robes moving silently around the circle. Travelers from the 1700s wrote of hearing music without musicians, faint harp-like notes carried on windless nights. Shepherds reported strange lights hovering above the stones, flickering like lanterns, disappearing when approached. These legends are not presented as literal truths, but as echoes of a place that has been unsettling and enchanting people for as long as memory stretches. And yet, there is a peculiar serenity surrounding Stonehenge. Even those who claim to feel watched or accompanied there describe the sensation as calm, not threatening, curious, not ominous. It is as though the monument remembers every ritual ever performed within it and holds those memories gently in the air. Visitors often speak of the atmosphere shifting subtly from moment to moment. The circle feels spacious, then intimate, open, then enclosed, ancient, yet strangely awake. These impressions do not conflict with scientific understanding. Rather, they exist alongside it, forming a duality that defines Stonehenge's unique haunting. Standing within the circle, the stones are larger than they appear from afar. Their surfaces are rough but carry an unexpected warmth in sunlight and an eerie chill under moonlight. When the wind threads through the gaps between them, it creates an odd, uneven sound, almost like breath, almost like speech. It's no wonder ancient people saw this place as alive. Even now, with centuries of research behind us, the sensation persists. No model or simulation fully captures the strange acoustic behavior created within the ring. Some researchers believe chanting may have echoed in ways that induced altered states of mind. Others think the circular layout was meant to focus attention upward, toward the movements of celestial bodies. But none explains the unease reported by some nighttime wanderers who describe feeling gently herded toward the center as if guided by unseen presences. In recent decades, archaeologists uncovered human remains near Stonehenge, cremations, offerings, and signs of long-distance travel, suggesting the site was a destination for pilgrimage. People came from far-off regions, bringing loved ones, traveling across harsh landscapes simply to reach this circle of stone. This alone hints at a power deeper than architecture. Whatever Stonehenge represented, it inspired devotion strong enough to carry the living and the dead across miles. And where devotion gathers, stories gather too. Over generations, these stories blended into myths and myths into legends, until the entire site became wrapped in a quiet shroud of spiritual significance. But the mystery is not only cultural or spiritual. Scientific anomalies have been reported as well. Some visitors describe compasses going haywire near certain stones. Photographers claim their devices malfunction mysteriously inside the circle, but work again once outside it. Others sense unexpected temperature drops near specific sarsens, though no environmental explanation holds steady. Researchers generally attribute these to normal variations in the environment, yet the anecdotes persist, too many, too similar, too long-standing to dismiss entirely. Whether psychological, atmospheric, or something else, these subtle oddities deepen Stonehenge's enigmatic aura. Even the landscape contributes to the haunting. The plain around Stonehenge is smooth and open, offering no distractions. There are no towering mountains, no forests, no cliffs, just vastness. This emptiness allows thoughts to echo, emotions to rise, and the imagination to spill into the environment. When fog rolls across the plain, the stones appear and vanish like specters. At sunrise, their shadows stretch impossibly long, interlocking with each other until the circle seems to shift shape. At dusk, the arrangement darkens into silhouettes, silent, watching, ancient. These visual moods have shaped centuries of ghost tales, dream interpretations, and even fears. Yet none of these moods need actual spirits to feel supernatural. What haunts Stonehenge most is the absence of answers. We know how it was built. We know when. But the why remains suspended, refusing to settle into a single explanation. In this refusal lies the site's timeless pull. Human beings crave understanding, especially of the past, and when that understanding remains just out of reach, fascination grows. Stonehenge becomes not simply a relic, but a living question, one that shifts with every era that studies it. Each generation tries to interpret it through its own lens, and each generation leaves still wondering, still unsatisfied, still haunted. And so, as we stand within this ancient ring, surrounded by both archaeological evidence and centuries-old whispers, we feel the duality that defines Stonehenge. It is simultaneously clear and obscure, scientific and mystical, tangible and ghostly. The stones are real, heavy, grounded, yet the meaning behind them floats, elusive, like a voice carried away by the wind. This combination creates an enduring hypnotic effect, drawing visitors from across the world simply to stand in its presence. As the section draws to a close, we let the image of Stonehenge fade gently into the night air. The stones remain behind us, solid, unmoving, yet their questions drift forward with us. Because the next ancient mystery takes us from open plains to a monumental structure built not in circles, but in precise geometric passages and chambers. A structure that hides more within than Stonehenge ever revealed on its surface. A place where silence is deeper, where darkness is denser, and where the echoes inside are stranger still. From the windswept plains of England, our journey now turns toward the desert of Egypt, where the Great Pyramid awaits, its chambers cool, its shadows long, and its mysteries as haunting as the stones we leave behind. The Great Pyramid of Giza rises from the Egyptian desert like a colossal sentinel, its limestone blocks catching the sun by day and glowing faintly in moonlight by night. It has endured more than 4 millennia, standing as both a monument to human ingenuity and a repository of mysteries that continue to baffle scientists and captivate imaginations. Unlike Stonehenge, whose open circle invites the sky into its center, the pyramid conceals its secrets within immense, shadowed chambers, passageways, and voids, creating a silent world where time seems almost suspended. Even after centuries of study, the structure feels alive, as though it were built not merely from stone, but from the very questions it inspires. And as the desert wind whispers across the plateau, it carries stories both ancient and contemporary, tales of pharaohs, priests, and visitors who claim to have felt a presence within the stones. Modern science offers us a remarkable understanding of the pyramid's construction. We know it was built for Pharaoh Khufu around 4,500 years ago, that millions of limestone and granite blocks were transported from distant quarries, and that precise alignment with the cardinal points was no accident. Robotic explorations have revealed hidden voids, air shafts, and chambers whose functions are still debated. The technical mastery involved is staggering. Yet, for all the data collected, the pyramid's internal mysteries remain largely untouched. Scientists can measure the stones, map the angles, and model the construction, but they cannot fully explain why certain corridors are aligned the way they are, why the chambers are proportioned as they are, or why so many subtle, unexplained anomalies persist. In the echo of these unknowns lies the haunting. Visitors to the Great Pyramid often speak of sensations that defy logical explanation. Some describe a sudden, inexplicable chill, as though the air itself is older, denser, or somehow aware. Others report hearing faint whispers or feeling as if the stone walls are vibrating with a distant rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. These experiences are subjective and often fleeting, but their consistency across centuries of accounts creates a pattern that is hard to ignore. Even Egyptologists and archaeologists, who enter the pyramid in the most controlled circumstances, sometimes note feelings of unease or a profound awareness of being observed. Whether these are psychological effects of the pyramid's scale and geometry, or something more mysterious, is impossible to confirm, but the sensation adds an additional layer to the structure's enduring allure. The Great Pyramid was not merely a tomb. It was designed as a conduit between the earthly and the divine. Its internal passages, including the King's Chamber and the enigmatic Grand Gallery, have inspired countless interpretations. Some researchers believe these alignments were intended to channel spiritual energy, a concept that resonates with local legends of protective spirits and guardians of the afterlife. Others suggest that acoustics within the chambers amplify certain sounds in ways that create eerie auditory effects, contributing to stories of ghostly voices. Visitors often report a subtle sense of pressure or warmth at particular points in the corridors, sensations that are difficult to measure but impossible to dismiss entirely. These physical and emotional phenomena blend, creating an immersive experience that seems both ancient and immediate. Legends surrounding the pyramid abound, and many add to its haunted reputation. Tales of curses, long dismissed as sensationalism, persist in the popular imagination, fed by ancient warnings etched into surrounding temples and the enduring mystique of the pharaohs. Local folklore speaks of spirits who guard the tomb, moving silently through the corridors, invisible to the eye, but perceptible in a shift of air or a sudden silence. Some stories recount visitors seeing shadows where none should exist or feeling compelled to leave particular chambers without explanation. These legends are not uniform. They vary by time and storyteller. Yet each reinforces the idea that the pyramid holds more than stone and math. It holds an atmosphere, an invisible layer of presence that refuses to dissipate. The pyramid's interior is a masterclass in contrast. Narrow, ascending passages lead to spacious chambers, each designed with exacting precision. Light filters in only through tiny shafts, creating shadows that move slowly across the walls as the sun traces its path above. The interplay of dark and light, tight space and vast chamber, silence and faint sound, contributes to a haunting sensory environment. Even without invoking spirits, the architecture itself evokes a powerful psychological effect, a combination of awe, vertigo, and subtle unease. Many researchers speculate that the builders intended this emotional response, creating a space that inspired reverence and introspection, a physical manifestation of sacred mystery. Recent technological advances have only deepened the enigma. Ground-penetrating radar and cosmic ray scanning have revealed previously unknown voids and cavities, some possibly as large as entire chambers. Their purpose is uncertain. Some suggest structural necessity, others spiritual significance. No definitive answer has emerged, leaving even the most advanced exploration incomplete. Each new discovery, rather than resolving the mystery, amplifies it. The Great Pyramid thus becomes a living puzzle. Every stone, every passage, every shadowed corner is a fragment of a question whose answer remains just beyond reach. And yet, the pyramid does not intimidate so much as it invites. It asks quietly, almost imperceptibly, for attention, reflection, and imagination. Visitors are drawn not only to examine the physical structure, but to sense its atmosphere, to consider the minds and hands that created it, and to feel the echoes of history vibrating faintly along the walls. That is the essence of the haunting, a presence not seen but felt, a memory etched not in ink but in stone, a dialogue between past and present that continues without words. The Great Pyramid's chambers are simultaneously familiar and alien, rational and mystical, a duality that has fascinated scientists and dreamers alike. As night falls over the Giza Plateau, the shadows lengthen across the pyramid's smooth faces and the desert wind sweeps through the hidden corridors. The faint outlines of the ancient stones seem to shimmer, as if they hold onto stories too fragile for daylight. And while archaeologists catalog every find, measure every chamber, and propose every theory, the silent, shadowed spaces of the pyramid keep their secrets intact. Perhaps this is why the Great Pyramid continues to haunt the imagination centuries after it was built. It is both known and unknowable, a monument to human skill and human wonder, its questions as enduring as the stones themselves. From the echoing chambers of the Great Pyramid, our journey moves across continents to the vast desert of southern Peru. There, etched into the earth itself, lies another mystery. Vast figures that are visible only from above, whose meaning has baffled scientists and enchanted observers for generations. The Nazca lines await, their silent presence stretching across the landscape, a haunting testament to a civilization that communicated not through words, but through lines drawn in the sand, whispering across time. The Nazca Desert stretches endlessly under a sun that seems almost permanent, painting the land in shades of ochre, rust, and pale gold. From the ground, it appears barren, lifeless, a quiet expanse of sand and stone. Yet, from above, the surface transforms into a canvas of enormous, precise figures, lines, spirals, and animal shapes so vast that only the sky can fully reveal them. These are the Nazca Lines, a network of geoglyphs etched into the Peruvian desert between 500 BCE and 500 CE, their purpose debated and their meaning largely unknown. They evoke awe not only for their scale, but for the precision and imagination required to create them without the benefit of flight. And even now, centuries after their creation, these figures hold a haunting quality, a whisper of an ancient presence that seems almost alive in the dry wind. Archaeologists have studied the Nazca Lines for decades, revealing intricate patterns and remarkable alignments. Some geoglyphs depict animals, spiders, monkeys, hummingbirds, fish, while others are geometric, forming long straight paths and complex shapes. Studies suggest these lines may have served astronomical purposes, mapping solstices and equinoxes, or functioned as ritual pathways. The precision of the lines, many stretching hundreds of meters, suggests advanced surveying techniques for a culture without modern tools. Yet for all these explanations, the deeper question remains unresolved. Why were these enormous figures carved into the desert floor rather than constructed as monuments visible to the people walking the land? Their scale seems to suggest that they were meant for the gods or for forces beyond ordinary human sight, creating a subtle tension between the known and the unknown. Local folklore amplifies the mystery. Stories passed down through generations speak of lights dancing above the desert at night, of beings descending from the sky to walk along the lines, invisible to ordinary eyes. Some claim that the lines themselves hum under moonlight, producing faint vibrations that resonate through the soles of shoes. Travelers and pilots who first flew over the Nazca Plateau in the 20th century were mesmerized, reporting a sense of weightless wonder, as though the desert itself was alive with purpose. These tales, whether embellished or real, add layers of haunting that pure scientific measurement cannot explain. The desert seems quiet, yet it murmurs secrets to those willing to listen, and the geoglyphs appear to guide that attention with a silent, deliberate hand. The creation of the lines is itself an extraordinary feat. Ancient people removed reddish-brown stones to expose lighter soil beneath, creating striking contrasts that endure despite centuries of wind and rain. The simplicity of the technique belies its sophistication. It requires understanding of proportions, perspective, and alignment on a massive scale. How a culture without aerial observation could achieve such accuracy remains a puzzle. Some scholars suggest the Nazca may have used simple surveying tools and ropes, yet the question of why so much effort was devoted to creating shapes meant for unseen eyes persists. This tension, the visible versus the invisible, human effort versus divine intention, is central to the haunting quality of the lines. Unlike pyramids or temples, The Nazca lines are open and exposed, yet they maintain an intimate sense of presence. Observers often describe feeling watched or guided while walking along the paths. Even pilots who soar above them report a sensation of calm reverence, as though the land itself observes and responds to their attention. The desert amplifies sound, isolates movement, and stretches perception. Footsteps seem muted. Wind carries distant echoes. Shadows shift unexpectedly. In this environment, the lines are not merely art. They are active participants in a dialogue between earth and sky, human and divine, known and unknown. Some geoglyphs appear almost animated, their curves suggesting movement frozen in time. A hummingbird seems to hover mid-flight. A monkey's tail curls with playful precision. Others, like the mysterious trapezoidal paths, stretch for kilometers, leading the eye and imagination into the horizon. This interplay of scale, detail, and emptiness contributes to the feeling of haunted intentionality. Each figure feels as if it was created not just to be seen, but to be experienced, to interact with human perception in ways subtle and profound. And while the desert provides a stark backdrop, the geoglyphs themselves are imbued with an energy that feels timeless, resonant with lives long gone. Despite numerous studies, controversies persist. Some researchers insist the lines served as ceremonial walkways, intended to be followed on foot during ritual processions. Others suggest astronomical calendars, aligning with solstices or the movement of certain stars. A smaller faction proposes that they are symbolic messages to the gods or spiritual forces, encoded in forms humans can only interpret partially. Each theory offers a piece of understanding, but none fully satisfies. And perhaps the most haunting aspect is this persistent incompleteness. The creators themselves left no records, no written explanations, no explicit guidance. We are left, as always, between knowledge and mystery, tracing lines that whisper across millennia. The Nazca lines also carry an unusual intimacy with the sky. Pilots, researchers, and travelers often report sudden clarity or profound stillness while observing the patterns from above. The figures seem to open themselves to the viewer, revealing small details, subtle alignments, or compositional tricks that can only be appreciated from a height. This aerial perspective reinforces the sense that the geoglyphs were intended for observation from above, for someone or something that humans could not normally access. The desert's vast silence and the enormous scale of the figures create a haunting dichotomy. The human effort is immense, yet the audience may be entirely beyond reach. This duality resonates with many other ancient mysteries we have explored. The combination of tangible skill and elusive purpose. As we move through this section, it becomes clear that the Nazca lines occupy a liminal space between the seen and the unseen, the human and the divine, the known and the unknowable. Walking the desert at sunrise or sunset, one might notice the faint outlines of lines stretching beyond the eye, paths converging toward points invisible until perceived from above. Shadows lengthen and shift over the figures, creating illusions of movement. The wind sculpts the sand in subtle patterns that echo the etched lines, reinforcing a sense of dialogue between the landscape and the creations upon it. The desert does not merely host these figures, it participates in them. And so, from the flat, whispering plains of southern Peru, our journey turns across the Pacific Ocean to a remote island where colossal stone statues stand silently in the jungle, their eyes fixed on horizons long abandoned by their makers. The haunting energy of the Nazca lines flows forward, connecting us with the Moai of Easter Island, another enigma in which human skill, spiritual intent, and the unknown merge. Here, stone becomes more than material. It becomes a vessel of presence, memory, and mystery, as enduring as the desert itself. Easter Island rises from the vast Pacific like a lonely green jewel, surrounded by the endless blue of ocean, a place both remote and resonant. Its most remarkable feature is unmistakable: the Moai statues, monolithic figures carved from volcanic rock, standing sentinel across the island's undulating hills. Some are perched atop ceremonial platforms, facing inland toward the communities that once thrived here. Others lie half-buried, fallen, or abandoned, as if weary from the weight of time. These stone giants are more than monuments. They are repositories of stories, of ancestral veneration, of human determination, and, perhaps, of lingering presence. And even today, when the island is quiet and the wind brushes softly across the grass, the statues seem to watch, silently bearing witness to centuries of mystery, loss, and devotion. Scholars have long marveled at the technical skill required to craft the moai, some of which weigh over 80 tons. The Rapa Nui people quarried volcanic tuff, shaped the figures with stone tools, and transported them across miles of uneven terrain without the benefit of wheels or draft animals. The precision of the statues, the symmetry of their faces, the alignment of their platforms, suggests not only artistic skill, but an intimate knowledge of balance and engineering. Yet the most enduring question is not how the moai were moved or sculpted, but why. The statues were created to honor ancestors, yes, but the sheer number, scale, and deliberate placement imbue the island with a quiet, haunting presence. Their gaze, always directed inland, seems to insist upon remembrance, vigilance, and respect, bridging the realms of the living and the departed. Local legends amplify this haunting quality. The Rapa Nui believed that the moai were inhabited by the spirits of important ancestors, whose mana, spiritual energy, would protect and guide the community. Some stories tell of statues walking themselves to their platforms, an idea that modern observers interpret as metaphorical, yet the myth lingers with a tangible weight. Visitors to the island often report an unusual emotional response when standing before the statues, a mixture of awe, reverence, and subtle unease. The presence of these figures feels active, not passive, as though the island itself is alive with the memories of those who carved and honored them. Even the fallen or incomplete statues carry this energy, silent testaments to an interrupted history, a civilization tested by environmental change, internal conflict, and the relentless passage of time. Easter Island's isolation intensifies the moai's haunting effect. Unlike Stonehenge, which exists within a broader landscape of human habitation, or the Nazca Desert, open and vast, Easter Island is cut off from the world. Visitors arrive by boat or plane, crossing thousands of miles of ocean, entering a space that has developed its own rhythms, its own quiet energies. The hills roll softly, the ocean hums in the background, and the moai emerge gradually from the landscape, creating a sense of being watched across time and distance. This isolation heightens the statue's presence, allowing them to dominate both the physical environment and the imagination. The island becomes a theater of memory, where human effort and spiritual intent converge in stone. Archaeological studies reveal layers of history beneath this haunting surface. Evidence of village sites, ceremonial platforms, and agricultural terraces suggests a society both complex and deeply spiritual. Yet the civilization that created the moai also faced significant ecological and social challenges, which led to periods of conflict, statue toppling, and abandonment. This historical reality adds a shadowy layer to the moai's presence. The statues are not only symbols of reverence, but also markers of human struggle, resilience, and the fragility of civilizations. The ghostly quality of the island comes as much from these historical echoes as from the legends and myths. Time has sculpted the landscape and the stones together into a living memory, a quiet reminder of what endures when humans are gone. The positioning and size of the moai also contribute to their enigmatic aura. Many are oriented toward inland communities rather than the ocean, suggesting a focus on protection and observation of the living. Their eyes, once inlaid with coral and obsidian, would have seemed vividly alive, creating the sense that they were actively watching. Even now, empty eye sockets seem to follow visitors in subtle ways, a visual illusion enhanced by the human mind's natural tendency to assign gaze and intent. Scholars debate the purpose of this orientation, some proposing it as a symbolic gesture of ancestral guardianship, others interpreting it as part of complex social and religious rituals. Regardless of interpretation, the result is a palpable presence that can be felt as one moves through the fields of statues. Some visitors have reported sensations of guidance or gentle unease when walking among the moai, as if invisible hands or ancestral spirits move subtly in concert with the stone figures. Others describe dreams or visions after extended stays on the island, experiencing a connection to past lives or to the original creators of the statues. While such accounts are anecdotal and cannot be scientifically verified, their recurrence over centuries contributes to the island's layered mystery. Easter Island becomes a place where the natural and supernatural, the historical and mythical, intersect in subtle, haunting ways. These experiences reinforce the idea that human presence and memory can leave impressions that endure far beyond life, etched not only into stone but into the atmosphere itself. The haunting of Easter Island is also reinforced by its silence. The winds sweep across the hills, the ocean laps against the shores, and birds circle above, but there is little human noise to intrude upon the experience. Time feels slower, the mind more receptive, and the landscape more attentive. This quiet allows imagination and memory to resonate freely, creating a space where ancient presence and modern curiosity coexist. Each statue, whether upright or fallen, seems to participate in this dialogue, maintaining an awareness that transcends centuries. The stone is a vessel of intent, memory, and mystery, resonating with both human craftsmanship and spiritual energy. As we leave Easter Island, we carry with us a sense of presence that lingers in the mind like a soft echo. The moai are more than statues. They are markers of a civilization, witnesses to history, and conduits of mystery. From these Pacific hills, our journey moves across the ocean once again toward the highlands of Mesoamerica, where another ancient city awaits. Teotihuacan, with its pyramids, tunnels, and lingering legends, continues this exploration of human ingenuity entwined with spiritual presence. Here, as on Easter Island, stone and story converge, and the boundary between the tangible and the intangible is once again blurred, inviting reflection, curiosity, and quiet awe. Teotihuacan rises from the central Mexican highlands like a ghostly silhouette, its monumental pyramids piercing the sky, its long avenues stretching in rigid symmetry, and its abandoned plazas whispering stories of civilizations past. Once home to tens of thousands, this city is now silent except for the occasional wind that stirs dust along the Avenue of the Dead. The name Teotihuacan, the place where gods were born, hints at the sacred aura the city once held. Yet even today, the ruins retain a sense of life, as though the echoes of its ancient inhabitants linger in the very stones. Visitors often describe an unexpected awareness upon entering the city, a subtle sensation that they are being observed, not in fear, but with the quiet attentiveness of history itself. The city is both imposing and intimate, monumental in scale, yet deeply personal in the sensations it evokes. Archaeological studies reveal a highly organized city with wide ceremonial avenues, enormous pyramids, and intricately decorated temples. The Pyramid of the Sun dominates the landscape, aligned precisely with celestial events such as solstices. The Pyramid of the Moon mirrors it to the north, and between them stretches the Avenue of the Dead, flanked by plazas and residential compounds. Excavations have uncovered multi-story apartment complexes, murals depicting gods and mythic events, and layers of artifacts that suggest a thriving, complex society. Yet despite decades of research, the identity of Teotihuacan's original builders remains uncertain. We do not know their language, their rulers, or even their ultimate fate. The contrast between the clarity of what they built and the opacity of who they were contributes to the city's haunting presence, an architectural enigma frozen in time. Local legends and historical accounts enhance the city's mysterious aura. Early Mesoamerican cultures regarded Teotihuacan as a sacred space, a place imbued with divine energy. Some modern visitors report strange sensations near the pyramids, an almost imperceptible hum, a sense of warmth or subtle pressure on the body. Others have claimed to see fleeting shadows along the avenues, figures that vanish when approached, or to hear echoes of chanting and ritual that cannot be traced. While these accounts may be influenced by imagination, their recurrence over centuries suggests that the city's atmosphere itself conveys something beyond the physical. Teotihuacan is more than stone and mortar. It is memory made manifest, a living whisper of an unknown civilization. The Pyramid of the Sun, in particular, is renowned not only for its scale, but for the strange phenomena reported within its substructures. Beneath the massive platform lies a network of tunnels and chambers, some lined with mineral deposits that shimmer faintly in torchlight. Archaeologists have speculated that these tunnels had ceremonial purposes, perhaps connected to fertility or water rituals, yet no definitive evidence confirms this. Visitors who descend into the passageways often describe a feeling of enclosed energy, as though the walls themselves hum with residual presence. Even the temperature and air pressure within these chambers can shift subtly, enhancing the sense that something unseen remains in the shadows. This interplay between scientific observation and experiential mystery reinforces Teotihuacan's reputation as a haunted city, where the boundary between the known and the unknown is delicate and fluid. The murals of Teotihuacan contribute to the city's spectral quality as well. Many depict abstract symbols, deities with animal features, or mythological scenes that resist full interpretation. The imagery suggests a culture deeply attuned to cosmology, ritual, and spiritual power. Yet the precise meanings have been lost over time, leaving modern observers to fill in the gaps with conjecture and imagination. This uncertainty generates a haunting effect. The city speaks in half-understood symbols, inviting visitors to interpret its stories without ever offering complete clarity. Every painted wall, every carved stone, every alignment of architecture becomes both a message and a question, echoing the human desire to connect with the past and the persistent reminder that some knowledge remains inaccessible. Archaeologists also report subtle anomalies in the ruins. Certain areas of the city exhibit unusual acoustic properties, whispers traveling long distances along corridors, or voices echoing in ways that defy expectations. Some researchers attribute this to architectural design, while others speculate on symbolic intent. Perhaps these effects were incorporated deliberately into ceremonial spaces to enhance ritual experiences. Regardless of explanation, these acoustic phenomena contribute to the city's ethereal atmosphere, a quiet layer of sensation that merges with the visual and historical evidence. Visitors often feel a heightened awareness, a sense that they are walking alongside the spirits of those who once filled the plazas with life, song, and ceremony. The scale of Teotihuacan amplifies the sense of awe and subtle unease. Climbing the Pyramid of the Sun, one cannot help but feel dwarfed by the precision and ambition of its builders. From the top, the entire city spreads out in meticulous geometric order, the avenue of the dead slicing through it like a spine. The alignment of the city with celestial bodies suggests that the builders were not only concerned with earthly structures, but also with connecting to the cosmos, a reminder that human perception and divine intent were entwined. The immensity of their vision, coupled with the mystery of their identity, contributes to the haunting quality of the site, a lingering presence that cannot be fully explained by archaeology alone. Teotihuacan also carries a story of decline that adds to its spectral resonance. At its height, it was a bustling metropolis, yet over time, it was mysteriously abandoned. Evidence of fire, social upheaval, and population dispersal hints at catastrophe, but the exact causes remain uncertain. As the city fell silent, the structures endured, transforming from living spaces into relics charged with memory. The ghost of the civilization seems embedded in the stones themselves, not in visible forms, but in an atmosphere of absence, a quiet that evokes reflection, curiosity, and even reverence. The city's emptiness is as potent as its architecture, a silent testimony to human ingenuity and the transience of culture. As we leave the highlands of central Mexico, the echoes of Teotihuacan stretch forward, carrying us to a mystery not of stone alone, but of written symbols. A manuscript, undeciphered and strange, bridges our journey from monumental cities to personal artifacts of memory and enigma. The Voynich manuscript, with its cryptic script and fantastical illustrations, waits silently to challenge our understanding, a reminder that ancient mysteries inhabit both landscapes and the pages of human imagination. Here, the haunted city gives way to the haunted text, yet the underlying theme remains constant. The past is alive in forms that persist beyond explanation. The Voynich manuscript, a book bound in time, yet untouched by understanding, rests quietly in the archives of Yale University, its pages filled with an intricate script and strange illustrations that have baffled linguists, cryptographers, and historians for centuries. The manuscript itself is an enigma. Its origins remain unknown, its language untranslatable, its illustrations perplexing and occasionally surreal. In the hushed corridors of the library, it exists not merely as a historical artifact, but as a riddle that continues to haunt the minds of those who study it. Every attempt to decipher its language has failed, and every theory about its purpose has only deepened its mystery. There is no clear explanation for why this manuscript, created sometime in the early 15th century, continues to defy every attempt at comprehension. It is as though the manuscript itself holds a secret, one that refuses to be unlocked, remaining hidden beneath layers of ink and parchment, and waiting patiently to reveal its truth to those brave enough to engage with it. The first known appearance of the Voynich manuscript was in 1912, when it was purchased by a rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich. He discovered it in the collection of an Italian Jesuit library, and immediately, its strange script and bizarre illustrations caught his attention. The manuscript contains about 240 pages, with some pages missing, and it is written in an alphabet that has never been seen before. The text itself flows in a continuous stream, without punctuation or spaces between words, further obscuring its meaning. The illustrations within are equally peculiar. Scenes of what appear to be women bathing in strange, plant-filled tubs, plants that do not exist in any known botanical record, and elaborate zodiacal symbols that seem to offer clues, but do not quite align with any known astrology. These visuals, paired with the incomprehensible writing, suggest a narrative that has been lost to time, or perhaps one that was never meant to be understood by future generations at all. The manuscript has inspired numerous theories, each as speculative as the next. Some scholars argue that the script is an elaborate hoax, a clever concoction meant to deceive or amuse. According to this view, the manuscript was written in the 15th century by someone skilled in forgery, hoping to create the illusion of an ancient, esoteric text. Others suggest that the script is a form of code, and that with the right key, it can be deciphered. Cryptographers have been working on this puzzle for decades, and while some claim to have made progress, no definitive translation has ever been achieved. If the text is indeed a code, it is unlike any other, with no repeating patterns or recognizable structure. This unique quality has made it a particular obsession for cryptanalysts, who have yet to determine whether the manuscript is simply an impossible puzzle or an intentional encryption. Then, there are those who believe that the manuscript is a lost book of knowledge, containing hidden wisdom from an ancient civilization or secret society. Some speculate that it holds alchemical recipes, esoteric spiritual teachings, or even forbidden knowledge that was meant to remain concealed. The plants depicted in the manuscript have sparked intense debate. Some of them seem familiar, but others are unlike any plants known to botany. Could they be metaphors? Or are they real, undiscovered species? Perhaps, some theorists argue, The manuscript was created by a group with access to ancient knowledge that modern scholars can no longer access. This theory suggests that the Voynich manuscript contains something so profoundly hidden, so deeply encoded, that our current understanding of the world simply cannot decipher it. The manuscript's illustrations, which depict scenes of women interacting with these mysterious plants, are often read as symbols of fertility or alchemical transformation, but their true meaning remains elusive, adding to the manuscript's aura of mystery. The possibility that the manuscript is an artifact of ancient or lost wisdom speaks to the idea that it is not simply an intellectual puzzle, but also a spiritual or mystical one. The Voynich manuscript does not merely resist comprehension. It seems to invite curiosity and reverence. It stands as a testament to the human desire for knowledge, both real and imagined. It is as though the manuscript was designed not to be understood in conventional terms, but to provoke thought, wonder, and contemplation. To many who study it, the manuscript is not just a book. It is a doorway, a portal to another world, one that we can observe but may never fully enter. Even the very nature of the manuscript's preservation speaks to its strange aura. It is a book that has survived centuries, passed through many hands, and yet it remains untouched by time in the sense that its meaning is still a ghost, present but inaccessible. Some speculate that it holds a deeper, possibly even supernatural, power. Could it be that its knowledge is meant to be revealed only in time, to a specific person or under specific conditions? In the realm of the unknown, this theory resonates with those who believe that certain mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, and that the manuscript itself guards its secrets like a watchful entity, waiting for the right moment. Moreover, some conspiracy theorists argue that the manuscript's mysteries are connected to secret societies or hidden knowledge passed down through history. There are those who believe that the manuscript is tied to the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, or other secretive organizations that have sought to guard arcane wisdom. The book's lack of clarity about its purpose and content only fuels this speculation. It is easy to imagine a secretive brotherhood, centuries ago, keeping such a book under lock and key, ensuring that only the initiated could access its teachings. For some, the manuscript serves as a symbol of the tension between knowledge and power, a mysterious book locked away from the public, hiding secrets that only a select few have ever seen. And then, there is the matter of the manuscript's physical condition. Despite being over 600 years old, it has remained remarkably intact, its pages crisp and its ink unfaded. This strange preservation only adds to its mystique. The durability of the manuscript, its survival against time and the elements, seems almost otherworldly, as if, like the pyramid at Teotihuacan or the Moai of Easter Island, the manuscript itself has been imbued with some kind of supernatural endurance, resistant to decay, much like the mysteries it holds. As we continue to explore the manuscript, the question remains, why does it continue to haunt us? Perhaps it is because it embodies everything we fear and desire in the unknown. The tantalizing idea that there is knowledge just beyond our reach, something ancient, sacred, and profound. The manuscript reminds us that there are mysteries that cannot be solved, not because they are unsolvable, but because they are meant to remain as such, fragile and elusive, locked in time, waiting for the right person or the right moment to unlock them. And so, the Voynich manuscript sits, still, silent, and unreadable, waiting for the next curious mind to approach its pages and wonder, as so many before have, what secrets lie buried within. Nestled in the waters off Nova Scotia lies a small island with a history that is both tantalizing and deeply mysterious. Oak Island, once a quiet, remote speck in the vast Atlantic, has become the focal point of one of the world's most enduring treasure hunts, the search for the legendary Oak Island money pit. For over 2 centuries, treasure hunters, archaeologists, and historians alike have flocked to this island, drawn by stories of a hidden fortune buried deep beneath the earth, and perhaps something more, something that defies explanation. The money pit itself is an enigma, a deep, elaborate shaft lined with intricate layers of stone, wood, and water traps, suggesting a construction of deliberate and unusual complexity. Despite centuries of excavation, no one has ever fully uncovered the treasures said to be buried there. Instead, the pit remains a cursed symbol of obsession, danger, and a tantalizing promise of riches that continue to elude discovery. The story of the Oak Island Money Pit begins in 1795, when a young man named Daniel McGinnis discovered a peculiar depression in the ground while walking along the island shore. Intrigued, he returned with a few companions and began to dig. What they unearthed beneath the surface would set off a chain of events that would consume generations of treasure hunters. As they dug deeper, they encountered layers of stone, followed by thick wood planks and mysterious symbols carved into the earth. Each time they thought they had reached the treasure, they found themselves thwarted by rising water, an obstacle that seemed both unnatural and deliberate. Despite their best efforts, the treasure remained just out of reach. Over the years, more men came to Oak Island, each believing they would be the ones to unlock its secrets, but none have succeeded. The money pit's design is one of the most perplexing aspects of the mystery. The pit is not a simple hole in the ground. It is a carefully constructed shaft with layers of stone and wood, each seeming to form a protective barrier between the treasure and any would-be explorers. At a depth of around 90 feet, the pit begins to flood with seawater, a phenomenon that has baffled experts for years. Theories abound about how such an elaborate system of traps and chambers was built, and for what purpose. Was it constructed by pirates, perhaps to protect a stolen fortune? Or could it be the work of a secret society, trying to hide something more profound, knowledge, artifacts, or sacred relics? Some believe the pit could be linked to the legendary Knights Templar, who were known to have hidden treasures during their decline, while others suggest the treasure might be connected to the lost manuscripts or treasures of ancient civilizations. The presence of water in the pit has led to the development of numerous theories about its function. Some suggest the pit's flooding was a precautionary measure, designed to prevent anyone from retrieving whatever lies at the bottom. The constant rise of water could imply a sophisticated engineering feat, an ancient but highly advanced water diversion system. Others believe the flooding could have a symbolic or spiritual purpose, with water representing purification or secrecy, keeping the treasure hidden until the right time. The persistence of the water, which has thwarted many excavation efforts, adds an eerie layer to the mystery. It is as if the island itself is conspiring to protect whatever lies buried beneath. Despite the many years of digging, no one has ever reached the bottom of the money pit. Theories about the treasure vary, but many involve the notion that whatever is buried, there is not merely gold or jewels, but something far more significant. Some speculate that the pit contains ancient manuscripts, perhaps lost texts of religious or historical significance, while others suggest that the treasure may be connected to the Bible, the Holy Grail, or other sacred artifacts. One particularly intriguing theory suggests that the money pit is tied to the lost Library of Alexandria, with scrolls containing ancient wisdom hidden away by scholars centuries ago. This theory, like many others, cannot be proved, but remains a captivating possibility. The allure of the Oak Island Money Pit has drawn countless individuals throughout the centuries, from local farmers and adventurers to wealthy entrepreneurs and even noted historians. Each has left their mark on the island's history, but each has also encountered failure and frustration. The most notable of these treasure hunters include the infamous Lagina brothers, whose modern-day search has been chronicled in the popular TV series The Curse of Oak Island. Their efforts to uncover the treasure have been met with some success, including the discovery of mysterious artifacts and strange, hidden tunnels. Yet the true treasure remains elusive. As each new layer of earth is removed, the mystery deepens. It is a quest that has claimed the time, money, and even the lives of those who have pursued it. The idea that Oak Island is cursed is deeply ingrained in the narrative surrounding the money pit. Early treasure hunters began to disappear under strange and unexplained circumstances, with some dying in accidents, while others succumb to illness or despair. Over the years, the island has gained a reputation for being haunted by a malevolent force, one that punishes those who attempt to unlock its secrets. This curse has become a part of the island's mythos, adding to its mystique and further entangling the tale of the money pit with supernatural elements. The curse, however, is not universally accepted as fact. It is a piece of folklore that continues to be passed down through generations, fueling the idea that Oak Island holds something far beyond the material. The numerous theories and unanswered questions surrounding the Oak Island money pit create a haunting atmosphere of uncertainty. There is something profoundly unsettling about the idea that a treasure, perhaps the most coveted and elusive in the world, lies buried just out of reach, protected by an ingenious system of traps and forces beyond our comprehension. It is a mystery that refuses to be solved, a reminder that some things are meant to remain hidden, regardless of human effort or desire. The quest for the treasure has transformed Oak Island into a site of pilgrimage for those who seek adventure, history, and the unknown. The island's beaches, now dotted with excavation equipment and cameras, are filled with echoes of the past, of men and women who believe they could uncover the truth. Yet despite their best efforts, Oak Island remains as enigmatic as ever, its treasures still buried beneath layers of soil, water, and stone. The money pit is a symbol not just of buried riches, but of the mysteries that continue to elude us, no matter how far we dig. It is a reminder that some stories, like the one whispered on the winds that sweep through the trees of Oak Island, may never be fully told. The island waits, as it always has, watching silently as the quest for its treasure unfolds once again. The winds of the Atlantic carried the English settlers to Roanoke Island in the late summer of 1587, their minds filled with hopes of establishing a new life in the New World. Led by John White, the group was part of a larger colonial effort to expand England's influence in the Americas. The island, located off the coast of what is now North Carolina, seemed like a perfect place to build a new colony, lush with resources and surrounded by the mysterious expanse of the vast, untamed land. But what should have been the beginning of a new chapter in history soon turned into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the early colonial era: the disappearance of the Roanoke colony, a vanishing that still haunts the American historical landscape. When White, the governor of the colony, left Roanoke in 1587 to seek supplies in England, the colony was flourishing. The settlers, including women and children, had made homes for themselves in the dense forests, and White was confident that his absence would only be temporary. However, when White returned to the island 3 years later, in 1590, he found a scene that would forever puzzle historians and archaeologists. The colony had disappeared. Not a single settler was found. Their homes were abandoned, the fortifications dismantled, and there was no sign of any struggle or violence. The only clue left behind was the word Croton carved into a post of the fort, a clue that led to more questions than answers. Where had they gone? Why had they left? And most haunting of all, what happened to the men, women, and children who once lived there? The disappearance of the Roanoke colony remains one of the most baffling mysteries in American history. Despite numerous theories, ranging from natural disasters to attacks by Native American tribes, no conclusive evidence has ever surfaced to explain the fate of the settlers. Some believe that the colony was simply abandoned and that the settlers may have integrated with nearby indigenous tribes, such as the Croton people, whose name appeared as the only clue left behind. Others propose that the settlers may have been victims of an attack, their bodies hidden or destroyed, leaving no trace behind. The absence of written records, aside from White's brief report and the cryptic carving, has only intensified the mystery, leading to more theories, many of them bordering on the supernatural. One of the most persistent theories is that the settlers were attacked by local tribes, who may have grown hostile toward the English settlers after initial encounters. The word Croton could have been a reference to the Croton tribe, who lived on an island off the coast, or it might have been a plea for help. In 1587, relations between the settlers and the indigenous populations were often tense, and it is possible that the settlers met with an unfortunate end at the hands of local tribes. However, Despite this theory, there is no evidence of mass graves or bodies, which would be expected if such an event had taken place. The absence of any signs of violence makes this theory less likely, but it remains one of the leading explanations in the absence of more definitive answers. Another theory posits that the settlers may have left the island voluntarily and attempted to move further inland, seeking a better location for their settlement. The mysterious word Croton could have been a message that the settlers intended to relocate to Croton Island, where they may have hoped to establish a more secure and prosperous colony. Some believe that the settlers were forced to abandon their fortifications due to a lack of supplies and the difficulties of life in the New World. The notion that the colony was abandoned rather than destroyed would explain the lack of physical evidence of violence, but leaves open the question of why no one ever returned to Roanoke or sent word back to England. Another compelling theory is that the settlers did indeed integrate with the local Croton tribe. Over time, this theory gained traction as evidence emerged suggesting that the descendants of the Croton people may have had European features, such as lighter skin and blue eyes. Some accounts from later settlers and explorers claim to have encountered Native Americans who spoke of their ancestors being part English. If this is true, it would suggest that the Roanoke colonists assimilated into indigenous tribes, adopting their way of life and leaving behind any traces of their previous settlement. This theory, however, is difficult to prove as no direct evidence of this cultural exchange has been uncovered. As time passed, the mystery of the Roanoke colony grew, becoming the stuff of legends and folklore. The disappearance inspired countless tales of ghostly apparitions, lost treasure, and a colony that had been swallowed up by the land. It was not just the fate of the settlers that became the subject of speculation, but their very existence. Were they victims of a tragic misfortune, or had they become part of something far stranger, something beyond the reach of ordinary understanding? In the absence of hard evidence, the Roanoke mystery became a symbol of human vulnerability in the face of the unknown, a reminder that some questions remain forever unanswered, no matter how hard we search for the truth. Over the centuries, the mystery of the Roanoke colony has inspired a number of investigations, many of which have failed to uncover any definitive answers. Archaeologists have excavated the island multiple times, searching for clues that might lead them to the fate of the settlers, but little evidence has surfaced. In the 19th and 20th centuries, expeditions were launched to find the lost colony, but they were met with failure and frustration. Theories continued to evolve, and with each new generation, new speculation arose. Was it possible that the settlers had simply vanished without a trace, leaving no physical evidence behind? Or was there something more sinister at play? Despite the lack of concrete answers, the story of Roanoke continues to captivate the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and adventurers. It remains a tragic and haunting chapter in American history, one that forces us to confront the fragility of human endeavor in the face of the unknown. The vanished settlers of Roanoke continue to be the subject of countless theories, but no matter how many years pass, the truth remains elusive. In the end, it is this very uncertainty that makes the mystery so captivating, an open question that beckons us to explore, but one that may never reveal its answer. The lost colony of Roanoke lives on, not as a place on a map, but as a mystery that continues to haunt the shores of history, waiting for someone to unravel the secrets buried in the sands of time. The Bermuda Triangle, often referred to as the Devil's Triangle, lies in the Atlantic Ocean, framed by the points of Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. This region, shrouded in myth and mystery, has been the site of countless disappearances, most famously the vanishing of Flight 19. On December 5, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, set out on a routine training mission over the Atlantic. The squadron, composed of experienced pilots, had no reason to expect anything unusual. But what transpired that day remains one of the most perplexing incidents in the history of aviation, adding yet another layer of intrigue to the enigmatic Bermuda Triangle. Flight 19's mission began like any other. The 5 aircraft, TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, left Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a navigation training exercise that would take them over the Gulf of Mexico and back. The flight plan was simple, a series of waypoints and a return to base. The weather was clear, and the pilots had been trained for exactly this kind of mission. However, after several hours in the air, something went terribly wrong. The squadron leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, reported that he had become disoriented and was unable to determine his exact position. This is where the mystery deepens. Taylor's confusion was not due to mechanical failure or bad weather, but to what appeared to be a complete loss of bearings, a disorientation so profound that he was unable to even recognize landmarks he should have known. Taylor's communications grew increasingly erratic as Flight 19's position became more uncertain. At one point, he claimed that his compasses were malfunctioning and that the planes were flying over water where they should have been flying over land. At another point, Taylor reportedly said that the aircraft were flying in circles and that they were running low on fuel. In a final transmission, he said, "We'll never make it." Those would be the last words heard from Flight 19. In a matter of hours, the entire squadron vanished. Despite an extensive search operation involving ships and planes, no trace of Flight 19 was ever found. The disappearance of the 5 bombers, with their experienced crew members, continues to baffle investigators to this day. The Bermuda Triangle had claimed another set of victims, but this case would prove to be one of its most perplexing. There was no wreckage found, no remains, no sign of the planes or their crew. The search was one of the largest in U.S. history, but it turned up nothing. Theories began to emerge, many suggesting that the planes had flown off course and run out of fuel, crashing somewhere in the vast expanse of the ocean. Yet, the lack of any physical evidence has led to more speculative and eerie explanations. Was this simply a tragic accident? Or did something more unusual, something beyond the reach of conventional explanation, cause the disappearance of Flight 19? One popular theory that has emerged is that the Bermuda Triangle, for reasons still unclear, distorts the forces of nature in such a way that they play tricks on navigation instruments. Some believe that the area's magnetic fields might cause compass malfunctions, making it impossible for pilots to determine the correct direction. This theory is supported by the fact that many planes and ships in the Bermuda Triangle have reported similar compass failures. Could the pilots of Flight 19 have been victims of this phenomenon, disoriented and ultimately lost to the vast, unforgiving ocean? The idea of magnetic anomalies in the region, though never fully explained, remains one of the most persistent theories surrounding the Bermuda Triangle and the disappearance of Flight 19. Another theory points to the possibility of sudden and powerful storms, or even rogue waves, which could have appeared out of nowhere and swamped the planes before they had a chance to react. The Bermuda Triangle is notorious for its unpredictable weather patterns, and some argue that the squadron's disorientation could have been caused by such a storm, an intense weather system that appeared suddenly and vanished just as quickly. However, no storm was reported in the area at the time of Flight 19's disappearance, and it seems unlikely that the pilots would have been caught off guard by a storm of that magnitude, given the advanced meteorological tools available to them. Then, there are the more speculative theories. Could Flight 19 have fallen victim to some sort of otherworldly force? Stories of UFO sightings in the Bermuda Triangle have persisted for decades, with some suggesting that the region is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity. Could the disappearance of Flight 19 be linked to alien intervention, with the planes taken by forces beyond human comprehension? While there is no concrete evidence to support this idea, the unexplained nature of the event, coupled with the eerie atmosphere of the Bermuda Triangle, has made this theory a subject of fascination for many. Even more unsettling is the idea that the Bermuda Triangle is a portal to another dimension, a place where the laws of time and space break down. This theory suggests that the region might somehow be connected to other worlds, or that it serves as a passageway for objects to slip in and out of our reality. Could the planes of Flight 19 have entered another dimension, lost to time or space? While this notion belongs squarely in the realm of science fiction, it continues to captivate imaginations, providing a chilling possibility that defies all scientific explanation. The disappearance of Flight 19 is far from an isolated incident. Over the years, the Bermuda Triangle has been linked to the disappearances of numerous other ships and aircraft. Some, like the famous case of the USS Cyclops in 1918, have been found to have plausible explanations, such as weather-related incidents or mechanical failures. But others, like Flight 19, remain unsolved mysteries, feeding into the legend of the Bermuda Triangle as a place where the rules of the natural world do not apply. As more and more strange disappearances have occurred, the region has become synonymous with the unknown, a place where the boundaries between reality and mystery seem to blur. Despite the many theories and the continued fascination with the Bermuda Triangle, one thing remains clear. Flight 19's disappearance is an unresolved riddle, a tragedy that has only deepened the sense of unease surrounding the area. The Bermuda Triangle, for all its theories and speculations, continues to hold its secrets, just as it held the 5 bombers of Flight 19 and the many other souls lost within its confines. As the years pass, the mystery only grows, like the shifting waters of the Atlantic itself, vast, unknowable, and eternally elusive. Whether the answer lies in natural anomalies, human error, or something far stranger, the mystery of Flight 19 is a reminder of the ocean's power to swallow stories whole and leave only questions in its wake. The discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 remains one of the most significant archaeological finds in history, yet is also wrapped in a shroud of mystery and superstition. When British archaeologist Howard Carter unearthed the tomb, untouched by tomb robbers for over 3,000 years, it was a moment of unparalleled triumph. But it was also the beginning of a strange and eerie series of events that would forever tie the young pharaoh to a curse that seemed to claim the lives of those involved in the excavation. The so-called Curse of the Pharaohs has haunted the tomb of Tutankhamun ever since, with mysterious deaths, illnesses, and misfortunes surrounding those who dared to disturb the resting place of one of Egypt's most famous rulers. Was it simply coincidence, or was there something more sinister at play? The story begins with the tomb's discovery in the Valley of the Kings, a place that had long been the final resting place of Egyptian pharaohs. Tutankhamun's tomb, however, was not like the other grand burial sites of Egypt's ancient rulers. The boy king, who had died at just 18, had been buried in a tomb that, while richly adorned with treasures, was comparatively small and relatively humble in comparison to the tombs of other pharaohs. It was as though the tomb had been hastily constructed, possibly because Tutankhamun's death was sudden and unexpected. Despite its modest size, the tomb was filled with astonishing treasures, including golden masks, statues, jewelry, and intricate items meant to accompany the pharaoh into the afterlife. Yet, beneath the excitement of this remarkable discovery, there was an ominous undertone. Shortly after Carter and his team entered the tomb, the first signs of the curse began to surface. Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy British aristocrat who funded the excavation, was one of the first to experience the ill effects of the curse. On April 5, 1923, just a few months after the tomb's opening, Carnarvon was bitten by a mosquito on his cheek, a seemingly minor injury. However, the bite became infected, and he soon fell gravely ill. Despite medical treatment, Lord Carnarvon died in Cairo on April 5th, the same day that his dog, which had been at his side, was reported to have mysteriously died as well. His sudden death became the first of many tragic events, and it sparked rumors of a deadly curse tied to Tutankhamun's tomb. The deaths didn't stop with Lord Carnarvon. As the years passed, more people involved in the tomb's discovery and exploration began to meet untimely and unusual ends. One of the most famous of these was the death of George Gould, an American who had visited the tomb shortly after the discovery. Gould, along with his wife, had been in Egypt just months before the opening of the tomb. After returning to the United States, he contracted a mysterious fever and died shortly thereafter. Similar deaths followed, including those of some of Carter's team members. The press began to sensationalize the idea of a curse, with newspapers reporting on each new death, adding fuel to the fire of superstition. The most unsettling of these deaths was that of Sir Bruce Ingram, a prominent British archaeologist who had been closely involved with the excavation. Ingram's house burned down under suspicious circumstances shortly after the discovery of the tomb. While he survived the fire, his wife tragically did not. Ingram's misfortune didn't end there. He too suffered multiple personal losses, leading many to believe that the curse had indeed claimed him as one of its victims. With each passing death, the legend of the curse grew stronger. By the 1930s, it was widely believed that Tutankhamun's tomb was indeed cursed, and the list of casualties linked to the excavation continued to expand. Carter himself, though he did not die young like many of his colleagues, was not exempt from the influence of the curse. He suffered a series of personal and professional misfortunes after his discovery, including the loss of much of his funding and a public backlash against his methods. Though Carter lived to an old age, the myth of the curse would forever be tied to his name. But what exactly was this curse, and was there any truth to the claims of supernatural retribution? Was it simply a coincidence that so many deaths occurred among those who had been involved with Tutankhamun's tomb? Many have suggested that the deaths could be explained by a more rational set of circumstances. For one, it is well known that ancient Egyptian tombs were often filled with dangerous substances, including bacteria, fungi, and toxic metals. The tomb of Tutankhamun, for instance, contained a variety of substances that could have caused illnesses or infections in those who entered without proper precautions. The possibility that these substances were responsible for the deaths, rather than a supernatural curse, cannot be ruled out entirely. Some researchers believe that the curse could also be a product of the intense media coverage that followed the tomb's discovery. Newspapers of the time, eager for sensational stories, began to report on the deaths in connection with the tomb, turning an unfortunate series of events into a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more that people believed in the curse, the more likely they were to attribute any misfortune to it. The death of Lord Carnarvon, in particular, was seen as confirmation of the curse, and the press played a significant role in shaping the public perception of the events. Despite these rational explanations, the curse of Tutankhamun continues to captivate imaginations. The sheer number of deaths, the prominence of those involved, and the eerie timing of many of the incidents have all contributed to the idea that something otherworldly might have been at play. The legend of the curse is a testament to the power of myth and superstition in shaping our understanding of the past. Over time, the curse of the pharaohs has come to symbolize more than just the tragic deaths associated with Tutankhamun's tomb. It represents humanity's deep-seated fear of the unknown, our belief that disturbing the dead, especially the powerful rulers of ancient civilizations, can have dire consequences. Whether one believes in the curse or not, it remains an enduring part of the story of Tutankhamun's tomb, and it continues to fascinate and terrify those who seek to uncover the secrets of the past. The tomb, filled with its riches and ancient relics, is a place of both awe and dread, standing as a reminder that some mysteries, no matter how fascinating, may be better left undisturbed. The night of December 24th, 1945, should have been a peaceful one for the Sadr family, a holiday evening marked by warmth, family togetherness, and the soft glow of Christmas lights. But that night, in the rural hills of Fayetteville, West Virginia, would become the backdrop for one of the most chilling and perplexing disappearances in American history. At approximately 1 a.m., a fire broke out in the Sadr home. The fire was devastating, destroying the entire house in a matter of hours. But despite the flames consuming everything in their path, 5 of the Sadr children, ages 5 to 14, were never found. The mystery surrounding their disappearance has puzzled authorities and the public for over 7 decades, with theories ranging from a tragic accident to deliberate abduction. What happened to the 5 Sadr children that night? And why have the answers remained so elusive? The fire itself was nothing short of catastrophic. The Sadr family had been living in a 2-story house in the countryside, a house that, like many rural homes, was not equipped with modern fire safety measures. When the fire broke out, the family was asleep, and the house quickly became engulfed in flames. George and Jenny Sadr, the parents were able to escape the house with 4 of their children, but they were unable to reach the 5 children who were upstairs. Remarkably, the parents and the 4 children who escaped did not suffer serious injuries, but the rest of the house was reduced to ashes. Yet, despite the fire's severity, no remains of the 5 missing children were ever found. In fact, no trace of the children was ever discovered at all. What made the case even more perplexing was the absence of any evidence that would suggest the children had perished in the fire. Forensic experts later concluded that the children could not have died in the fire because their bodies would have left some trace behind, whether it was bones, clothing, or remnants of personal belongings. However, none of the usual signs of a fatal fire were found, leading some to question whether the children had even been inside the house when it burned down. As investigators combed through the rubble in the days following the fire, they found no remains, no ashes, no bones, nothing that would confirm the deaths of the children. Even more strange was the fact that several of the family's possessions, including a truck that had been parked near the house, were untouched by the flames. The truck's tires and engine were unharmed, suggesting that the fire had not spread evenly across the property. Could the fire have been deliberately set to cover up a more sinister plot? And if so, where had the children gone? The Sodder family began to suspect foul play almost immediately. George Sodder, a World War I veteran, was convinced that the fire had been no accident. He had noticed a few strange occurrences in the days leading up to the fire, which raised his suspicions. For one, he had received threatening phone calls, and a few days before the fire, a man had approached him asking to buy some of the family's land. George also recalled seeing a group of strangers near his property on the day of the fire. These events, coupled with the strange circumstances of the fire itself, led him to believe that the fire had been set intentionally, perhaps by someone with a vendetta against him. The theory of arson was given further credence by the fact that the phone lines had been cut shortly before the fire broke out. This suggested that someone had deliberately sabotaged the family's ability to call for help. Even more baffling was the fact that the fire seemed to have started in multiple places at once, further indicating that it was not a natural occurrence. There was also the strange matter of the missing children. If the fire had been an accident, why had their bodies not been found among the ruins? And if the children had been in the house, why had they not been able to escape, given that their parents and the other children had made it out? In the aftermath of the fire, the Sodder family received several cryptic pieces of information that only deepened the mystery. A woman claimed to have seen the 5 children in a car being driven away from the scene of the fire shortly before it had started. Another person reported seeing the children in the company of 2 men in a nearby town days after the fire. These sightings led George and Jenny to believe that their children had been kidnapped. But if this was the case, who would have taken them and why? For years, the Sodders pursued every lead, trying to uncover the truth. They put up a reward for information, consulted private detectives, and even hired a prominent investigator to look into the case. Despite their tireless efforts, no definitive evidence was ever found, and the case went cold. However, the mystery never truly faded from public consciousness. The Sodder family continued to believe that their children were still alive, and they never gave up hope. In the years following the fire, strange details continued to surface. The Sodders received letters from people claiming to have information about their children's whereabouts. Some said they had seen the children living in various parts of the country, while others suggested that the children had been taken by a group of kidnappers. These leads were always followed up, but none ever led to a breakthrough. As time passed, the mystery only deepened. The lack of physical evidence, combined with the inconsistent sightings and reports, fueled the belief that something truly sinister had occurred. But what? Could the children have been abducted and hidden away for reasons that remain unknown? Or were they the victims of a tragic accident, one that has been shrouded in confusion and misdirection? The unanswered questions linger, with no satisfying resolution. In 1967, 22 years after the fire, the Sodder family's search for answers was reignited when a photo was sent to them by a woman from Kentucky. The photograph showed a man who appeared to be one of the missing children, now grown up. The family was convinced that the child in the photo was their son, and they continued to pursue leads, even as their hope began to fade. The years of unanswered questions, the dead-end investigations, and the overwhelming lack of closure left the Sauter family with little more than unanswered questions and a deep sense of grief. The mystery of the Sauter children remains unsolved to this day. What happened to the 5 children who disappeared on that fateful night? Were they the victims of a tragic fire, or was there a more sinister force at play? Despite decades of investigation, the truth remains elusive, and the case remains one of the most haunting and perplexing disappearances in modern history. The Sauter family's search for closure continues to resonate as a reminder of how the line between the known and the unknown can blur, leaving families and communities to struggle with the burden of unanswered questions and a mystery that refuses to be solved. In the heart of the Ural Mountains, on a remote slope known as Dyatlov Pass, an incident occurred in 1959 that has since become one of the most chilling and enduring mysteries in the history of mountaineering. 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, embarked on an expedition to reach the top of Otorten, a peak in the Soviet Union's Sverdlovsk region. The group, all students or graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, were well prepared and seasoned in the ways of the mountains. Yet, what should have been a routine trek turned into an unexplained disaster, as all 9 members of the group perished under strange and horrific circumstances. The incident has baffled investigators, amateur sleuths, and conspiracy theorists for decades. What happened to the Dyatlov group, and why did they meet such a grisly and inexplicable end? The hikers' journey began on January 27, 1959, when the group set out from the town of Sverdlovsk. Their goal was to reach the summit of Otorten, a remote peak that had been the subject of previous successful expeditions. On February 1st, however, the group's last known communication with the outside world was a telegram stating that they were taking a brief rest. This would be the last anyone heard from them. When the hikers failed to return on schedule, a search and rescue mission was launched. Days later, on February 26th, rescuers found the hikers' abandoned tent, pitched on the slopes of Dyatlov Pass. But what they discovered inside the tent was anything but ordinary. The tent had been cut open from the inside, as if the hikers had fled in a hurry, leaving all their belongings behind. The cold winter temperatures at the time were extreme, and yet the hikers had left the tent wearing little more than their underwear, some barefoot, in the midst of a snowstorm. This strange scene suggested panic, and the rescuers soon realized that something had gone horribly wrong. The bodies of the hikers were scattered in the area surrounding the tent, and as the investigation progressed, more bizarre and unsettling details began to emerge. The first bodies to be found were those of Dyatlov and his companions, lying in the snow near the tent. Some were found with severe injuries, including broken ribs and skull fractures, while others had sustained horrific injuries to their eyes and tongues. One of the most disturbing aspects of the case was that the injuries appeared to be so severe that they could not have been caused by the force of a human being. The damage to the bodies seemed consistent with the kind of trauma caused by a high-impact car crash, but there were no signs of external wounds and no evidence of weapons or attackers. Adding to the mystery was the absence of defensive wounds. The hikers, who had been experienced in surviving in the harsh conditions of the Ural Mountains, seemed to have fled the tent in a panicked state, yet no one appeared to have fought off an assailant. Moreover, the bodies showed no signs of struggle or fight. It was as if the hikers had been paralyzed or incapacitated before they could act. One of the hikers, in particular, had her tongue and eyes removed, a detail that has led to numerous theories, ranging from animal predation to occult rituals. As the investigation unfolded, even stranger details began to surface. For example, some of the hikers had been found with their clothing removed, yet the rest of their possessions, including their boots and jackets, were left behind in the tent. How could they have removed their clothes in freezing temperatures without any rational explanation? Furthermore, several of the hikers were discovered to have been wearing clothing that had been taken from other members of the group, suggesting that in their panic, they had scavenged whatever they could find. In addition to the strange injuries and missing clothing, The rescue team found that one of the hikers, Yuri Krivonischenko, had a large amount of radiation on his clothes, adding an even more perplexing twist to the mystery. The radiation discovery led some investigators to speculate that the hikers had been exposed to some sort of secret Soviet military testing, possibly related to nuclear weapons. The idea that the hikers had been exposed to radiation raised the stakes of the investigation, as it suggested that they may have been caught in a dangerous and highly classified experiment, one that had gone terribly wrong. Despite an extensive investigation, the Soviet authorities were unable to offer any definitive explanation for the deaths. The official conclusion, which was later published by Soviet authorities, was that the hikers had been killed by a compelling force, but did not provide any further clarification. This vague and unsatisfactory explanation left many questions unanswered and fueled suspicions of a cover-up. Conspiracy theories began to flourish, with some suggesting that the hikers had been killed by a military accident, while others speculated that they had encountered a Yeti or even been attacked by extraterrestrial beings. Theories about a secret government experiment or testing of military equipment also circulated, as did ideas involving indigenous groups, wild animals, or even cosmic forces. Over time, the Dyatlov Pass incident became the subject of widespread fascination, and the case was reopened by both Soviet and later Russian investigators. In the years following the incident, various new theories and explanations emerged, but no conclusive evidence has ever been found to explain what happened. Some have argued that the injuries sustained by the hikers could have been caused by a natural phenomenon, such as a snow avalanche or an infrasound event, which could cause disorientation and panic. Others suggest that a combination of factors, including exposure to the extreme cold and physical trauma, might have led to the hikers' deaths. In recent years, renewed interest in the case, including documentaries, books, and even a Hollywood film, has brought the Dyatlov Pass incident back into the public eye. Though new theories continue to emerge, the mystery remains unsolved, with no clear explanation as to why the 9 hikers died so mysteriously under such terrifying and strange circumstances. Some argue that it was a tragic accident, while others are convinced that something far more sinister took place. The truth, like the frozen landscape of Dyatlov Pass itself, remains elusive. The case serves as a haunting reminder that even in the age of modern technology and investigative techniques, some mysteries continue to defy understanding, lingering like shadows in the snow. The strange and persistent hum that echoes through the small town of Taos, New Mexico, has baffled residents, scientists, and acoustics experts for decades. Known as the Taos hum, this low-frequency sound is heard by a small percentage of the population, yet remains completely inaudible to others. Despite numerous investigations, no one has been able to pinpoint its source or explain its origins. Some attribute it to electromagnetic interference, while others speculate that it is linked to underground geological activity or even extraterrestrial phenomena. The Taos hum remains an unsettling and unresolved mystery, one that has prompted widespread curiosity and fear.